Alex Eala just walked into the Indian Wells Tennis Garden as the 31st seed, and the Coachella Valley hasn't been the same since. This isn't a feel-good story about a rising star. This is about a 20-year-old from the Philippines who turned the 5th Grand Slam into her home stadium. And the numbers, the sponsors, and the players themselves can't fully explain how it happened this fast. "12 months ago, Alex Eala was a wild card, ranked 141st in the world, walking into the 2025 Miami Open without a single WTA 1000 win to her name. By February 23, 2026, the Indian Wells seeding cutoff, she'd climbed to world number 31. That's not a gradual rise, that's not a trajectory, that's a rupture, and the BNP Paribas Open responded accordingly. In a 96-player draw where only the top 32 get a first-round bye, Eala became the first Filipino player in history to enter this tournament seeded. Guaranteed rest, a cleaner path through the bracket, and no opening round grind before the real battles begin. Indian Wells doesn't forgive the unprepared. The high-altitude ball flight in Riverside County, the extreme temperature swings across the Coachella Valley, the slow, gritty hard courts. These conditions have broken unseeded players for decades. Eala won't be walking in as a qualifier this time. She won't be a wild card, hoping for a miracle draw. She walks in with a bye, and the Coachella Valley was already waiting. But here's where this story shifts, because the shock rippling through Southern California isn't coming from the analysts. Sam Querrey, John Eisner, and Steve Johnson, 3 retired ATP professionals, sat down on the Nothing Major podcast and said something that stopped the tennis world cold. They called Alexandra Eala the biggest draw in women's tennis right now. Not one of the biggest, the biggest. Steve Johnson didn't hedge. He said venues in Australia and Dubai had gone standing room only every single time Eala competed. And now that energy is heading to California, where Riverside County is home to one of the largest concentrations of the Filipino diaspora in the entire United States. Ticket prices around the Indian Wells Tennis Garden are reportedly surging. The crowd mobilization ahead of her debut matches has been described as a takeover. This isn't a crowd that drove 2 hours east from Los Angeles to watch tennis. This is a crowd that made the drive to be part of something historic, and they know exactly what they came to see. And that crowd? It isn't just noise, it's a weapon. Earlier in 2026, during a match in Abu Dhabi against Alexandra Snovic, Eala found herself down 0-4 in the final set. By any conventional read, that match was over. The momentum was gone. The scoreboard said it plainly. What happened next wasn't tactical. It wasn't a coaching adjustment at the changeover. Eala herself credited the Filipino fans in that arena for pulling her back. She won the set. She won the match. She advanced. That one detail reframes everything that's building in the Coachella Valley right now. When 16,100 seats in Stadium 1 fill with fans who've already demonstrated the power to swing a match from a 0-4 deficit, the psychological makeup of Eala's game shifts entirely. She's essentially eliminated the concept of an away match. Before Eala even arrived in the California desert, she stopped in Oregon. At the Nike World Headquarters, Alexandra Eala was walked into what the industry calls the legendary tunnel, a space where portraits of Nike's most iconic global ambassadors line the walls. Eala's career highlights were placed there. One portrait carried a caption that read, "History in full bloom." Nike also unveiled a Sampaguita-inspired shirt and a custom edition shoe collection, designed specifically to honor her Filipino roots. A Sampaguita collection, custom shoes, a tunnel built for legends, for a player currently ranked 31st in the world. And that's the detail that sharpens everything. Tier 1 commercial treatment at this level is historically reserved for top 10 players, athletes with Grand Slam titles, years of sustained ranking dominance. Eala doesn't have any of that yet, and Nike is already treating her like she does. Industry insiders describe the buzz around her brand as insane and massive, and the financial record backs that up. By the end of February 2026, Eala had already earned around $292,000 in prize money alone, just in the first 2 months of the year. The Indian Wells winner takes home $1.15 million, roughly 66.4 million Philippine pesos, and 1,000 ranking points. Based on the commercial infrastructure already building around her, her off-court earnings could soon eclipse that figure entirely. To understand why California is reacting this way, you have to go back to Miami in 2025, the moment that started all of this. As a wild card ranked 140th, Eala did something that had never been done before at a single WTA event. She defeated 3 Grand Slam champions in straight sets, Jelena Ostapenko, Madison Keys, and then world number 2 Iga Swiatek. Final score 6-2, 7-5. Swiatek's press conference afterward was telling. She didn't cite external distractions. She didn't reach for excuses. Swiatek said Eala went all in and used her chances effectively. She called Eala's left-handed game uncomfortable, said Eala had a nice rhythm that was simply difficult to break. When a multiple Grand Slam champion publicly describes a wildcard's rhythm and left-hand mechanics as the reason for her own defeat, that's not a compliment. That's a technical concession. And when Eala arrived in California in 2026 as a seeded competitor, every fan who remembered Miami remembered exactly what that left-handed topspin had already done to the best player in the world. Coach Joan Bosch built this game at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Spain. The stats show a first-serve percentage consistently near 70%, minimal double faults, and a tactical return game that's grown well beyond the junior circuit. The Swiatek win wasn't luck. It was a system, built deliberately, arriving in America ready. And this is where things got complicated. In early February 2026, weeks before Indian Wells, Eala made an unusual public move. She directly warned her followers about what she called disinformation and fake news. The warning was specific. It was urgent. The fabricated stories had been multiplying fast. A fake $1 million sponsorship from Elon Musk, a manufactured story about a secret European engagement, invented accounts of locker room confrontations, false reports of institutional bans. None of it verified, all of it viral. Here's the read that no one's saying out loud. The volume of disinformation surrounding Eala is itself a measure of her star power. Fake news doesn't chase athletes, the algorithm ignores. It targets people with massive engagement footprints, because those names generate clicks, whether the story is true or not. The fabricated Elon Musk story alone tells you more about Eala's cultural standing in early 2026 than any ranking table could. She was fighting an information war before she hit a single ball at the BNP Paribas Open. But the moment that no one in California's tennis conversation has fully absorbed yet happened in Dubai. After Coco Gauff defeated Eala in the quarterfinals, something unusual happened. Gauff, a former doubles partner of Eala's and the world number 4, was seen afterward cracking jokes about the Alex Eala wave, the sheer intensity of Eala's fan base. And then Gauff apologized, not to Eala, to Eala's fans. Read that again. A Grand Slam champion, the 4th-ranked player in the world, publicly apologized to the supporters of the player she had just beaten. That is not a routine post-match courtesy. That is a player acknowledging that Eala's crowd has become a force in the WTA ecosystem that demands its own form of recognition. The fans arriving in the Coachella Valley for the 2026 Indian Wells Open are the same fans who received a personal apology from the 4th-best player in the world. They know their role. And the Indian Wells Tennis Garden, 54 acres, 29 courts, over 500,000 annual attendees, is about to find out exactly what that crowd does to a tournament atmosphere. Tournament director Tommy Haas a former world number 2 himself, has said publicly that the 2026 BNP Paribas Open is focused on raising the bar for player experience and global inclusion. Haas has managed the cancellation of the event during the pandemic, navigated controversial wildcard decisions, and spent years working to expand the tournament's international identity. The seeding of Alexandra Eala in the 2026 field fits directly into that mission. Alongside Aryna Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek, the established names at the top of the WTA, the name Eala now sits in the seeded draw of the 5th Grand Slam. Analysts aren't asking anymore whether she belongs. That conversation is over. The question has moved entirely. What happens after Indian Wells when the Sunshine Double sends her to Miami, where she arrives defending 390 ranking points from the 2025 semifinal run on faster courts in front of a different diaspora crowd on the East Coast? The shock you saw in California when Eala arrived was real, but it was never really about tennis. It was the moment a community realized that the player they believed in, the wildcard ranked 140 just 12 months ago, had arrived at the 5th Grand Slam as a seeded competitor, with Nike already calling her history, with Coco Gauff already apologizing to her fans, with retired ATP legends already calling her the biggest draw in the sport. And she hasn't won Indian Wells yet. So here's the question that no one in the Coachella Valley or anywhere else in the tennis world can answer right now. If Alex Eala is doing all of this at number 31, what does this tournament look like the day she breaks into the top 10?